What is going on, everybody? I'm gonna give it just a couple of minutes here while we get people into the stream. Give it just also, let me check to make sure that our audio is working correctly. Testing one, two, three, four. Testing, testing. Okay, perfect. We are up and away. Away we go. I'm gonna bring up one other thing here. While we're doing this, bringing up the chat. Just so I can see what everybody's. I'm going to give this just a little bit. I just shared this out. I know it's football season, and I know a lot of people are going to be watching football today. But I figured I would go live. Sharing this out one other place, letting it see if anybody else will join in before we get started. Testing one, two, three. Audio. Oh, yeah. The bit rate is lower than. Yeah, because I'm not talking right now. Thank you. my my system was letting me know that there was no audio coming through. Okay, got it shared out. We'll see how many people join us. Just give this a couple of minutes. And if nobody joins, I'm going to basically be doing a couple of videos. One will be discussing, kind of going over my predictions from the 2023 season and how well or how horribly I did there. So we'll see. Just making sure the audio is still working. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started because I'm not necessarily sure if anybody will join, but we'll go ahead and start it, and hopefully, as we're going, we'll get more people to join in. But so I'm going to cover what my predictions were for the 2024 season and whether or not we did a good job in predicting what the basically order would be when it comes to the my predictions. So let's go ahead. I'm going to bring up my predictions here. So what you see on the screen right now were my predictions going into the 2024 season. So obviously I had Max Verstappen winning the championship, and we all know that as of right now that is absolutely correct. So I got one correct there. But I'm going to go ahead and bring up the point standings here so we can kind of do a rundown and see where we got it right and where we got it wrong. So we'll kind of run through the top 10 here to begin with. So obviously we got Max Verstappen correct. Lando did a great job in, pushing for, potentially getting, into that championship hunt. I think next season in 2025, Lando Norris will be there. I think if anything, 2025 is going to be so wide open with, what is going to, potentially be with the fight, up at the front of the driver standings and even the constructor standings. I mean, let's be honest. The constructor standings were really close between the top three teams. If, Mercedes makes, a huge jump this season, that will really, bunch the field up. You've got the likes of Haas, you've got the likes of Visa Cash App Red Bull, you've got Alpine, who made a huge stride towards the end of the season. So I think, going into the 2025 season could be very, very good. But, going over my predictions. So Lando Norris finished second. I had Charles Leclerc finishing second. Ferrari, I think if we're all being honest, Ferrari showed signs early on that they were going to be a really good team. To bring the fight to Red Bull. And unfortunately for Red Bull, or unfortunately for Ferrari, I don't think anybody was looking at a team like McLaren to really make the strides that they did this season to really bring themselves forward. And quite honestly, I'm quite shocked that McLaren made the huge jump, and they made the huge jump really when you think about it. They made that huge jump in Spain, when Lando Norris got pole position in Spain. Unfortunately, he got jumped at the very beginning by George Russell, and we saw the Mercedes start to come back in that same race. But, Verstappen still showed just how good of a driver he truly is. So running down the order, Charles Leclerc finishes third. So I just had Charles and Lando, one behind. You could have switched them, and I would have been right on there. Excuse me. So then I had I had Lewis Hamilton in fourth position. I thought the Mercedes were going to really bring it back this season, and you heard it from the likes of Lewis and George that the car was just nowhere near where they needed it to be. The updates just weren't doing what they needed to really catapult them to the front. They made a good update in Spain as well, and we saw them fighting up front there for a little while. But I mean, McLaren made the jump that was obviously needed there. Finishing in fourth, Oscar Piastri. Oscar, again, with McLaren and the updates that they were able to make during the season to, really put them in a position to fight for the constructors and to fight. Oscar Piastri had that win in Hungary, and I think that really catapulted him into that stratosphere of, just kind of on the outside looking into, potentially, next season and years in the future of fighting for a World Drivers Championship. Then you had Carlos Sainz in fifth. I got that one correct. Carlos Sainz, at Ferrari, it was a shame that Carlos didn't get to stay longer at Ferrari, because he's really, I think, come into his own there, and he really truly knows that he's the second driver. As much as he wants to, push and say, I'm the number one guy there. It's Charles Leclerc all day, every day, and Charles Leclerc is going to be that lead driver. But Carlos Sainz is such a good one, what I would call a 1B, which is, he can definitely step up into that number one spot. And, we're definitely going to see if he's able to do that at Williams for the 2025 season. But he was doing really good work. And I mean, let's even think about this. I mean, Carlos Sainz finishes in fifth place, looks like 2 points behind Oscar Piastri. This is all while Carlos Sainz missed a race at Saudi Arabia. I mean, he was out with appendicitis and, comes back a race later in Australia 2 weeks later and does absolute wonders, gets the victory there in Australia. Even though we had a Max Verstappen breakdown in that race, the fact that Carlos Sainz was able to, get the victory in Australia, I think that really catapulted him, into another level, I think, for Formula One fans and even for the drivers on the grid. Just, being able to do as well as he did and really, put that Ferrari in a position to succeed early on in the season. Number 6, I had as George Russell, which I got correctly there. Now, looking at this, I had George Russell finishes ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 7th, but I felt like George was bound to take a step back, and not saying he took a huge step back this season. I think if anything, he took a minor step forward, especially going into 2025. He's now going to be the lead driver at Mercedes. It's going to be interesting to see if he can be that guy that's going to, basically lead a team into, constructors territory where they're fighting for constructors championships, or is it going to be one of those that, he's just not, quite there yet, and maybe give him one more season. And then with the new regulations coming in 2026, maybe that's where he takes that huge step. So then number 8, I had Sergio Perez, got another one correct here. Sergio Perez, I think for all intents and purposes, is going to be out of Formula One. Red Bull has yet to announce it. Even the official entry list still has Sergio Perez listed as the second Red Bull driver, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. Like, I don't understand how he is still on that team. So it's shocking, but I think it's just a matter of time. And every rumor that we've heard in Formula One has Liam Lawson stepping into that Red Bull seat. Although we know that Yuki Tsunoda, with the test just a couple weeks, just about a week ago, had a really good showing for Red Bull, and maybe made that decision just a little bit harder. I just don't see it necessarily. I see that we're probably going to get, Liam Lawson, whether he deserved it or not. That's another story. So then moving down the list, I had Oscar Piastri in 9th. Oscar did an amazing job this year, but 9th, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, who at the beginning of the season kind of started where they left off in 2023, but then we saw the Aston Martin just get worse and worse as the season progressed, and you could tell that it was frustrating Fernando Alonso. And I hate bringing up Lance because Lance is an okay driver, but Lance just hasn't. Lance has been nowhere, if we're being totally honest, and you can see in the standings as we're going down them. And it sucks for Fernando. I wish that Aston would give him a much better car to really deal with. But unfortunately, Adrian Newey isn't taking over till the new regulations. Maybe he'll have some words for these regulations to maybe help him out. Um, but I just don't know if Aston Martin is going to be in that position to be in the fight of the mid, for that upper part of the midfield, fight for the top five teams. Then number 10, Pierre Gasly. I had Yuki Tsunoda. I felt like Red Bull, the Visa Cash App Red Bull team was going to be a lot better than they were this season. And God, were they started off so well and then just tailed off. The upgrades that they kept bringing to the car just weren't any good. They if anything, it was setting the car back. They expected, I think, way too much out of Daniel Ricciardo, who ended up getting dropped after the Singapore Grand Prix, which that's a whole nother story in and of itself of this season. Visa Cash App Red Bull, just that car just progressively got worse as the season went on. But if you look at Pierre Gasly, yes, he finished in the top 10 in points, but I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. They were finishing at the bottom end of points a lot of times. They had, there was some freak results in there. And then obviously the biggest freak result of them all was Brazil this year, where, Alpine scored a 2-3, where Gasly finished third. And that's where a lot of Gasly's points came from this season. If we're being totally honest with ourselves, he basically got almost half of those points just from that one race in Brazil. And, more power to him. But I mean, if you take those points away from in Brazil, he's middle, he's bottom part of the standings. And, he's not necessarily in the fight and not necessarily bringing Alpine into the fight for sixth in the constructor standings. So then my number 11 was Fernando Alonso. Obviously, we talked about it. He finished in ninth. But Nico Hulkenberg finishes 11th in a Haas. I mean, let's be honest. I think Matt and Tommy from the P1 podcast, I think everybody legitimately thought that this Haas was going to be god awful, and I gotta say I was probably one of them as well. They went into the to off-season testing right before the season, and they weren't doing what they typically did when it came to testing. They weren't doing these short, flashy runs that would get them top speeds. They were working on long pace, race runs. And I think they made a huge step forward this season in being able to get themselves back up into a position where they're fighting for the top part of the midfield, best of the rest. And, going into 2025, it's going to be, I think, a really great fight between the likes of Aston Martin, Alpine, Haas. I think Visa Cash App Red Bull will kind of return there. If, Carlos Sainz can bring the Williams back up, towards the front, that's going to be an amazing fight for best of the rest. And, I'm here for it in 2025. So, it is, I am ready for it. So, going down the rest of my list, I had Alexander Albon in 12th. Let's scroll down here. Yuki Tsunoda. We're going to go to the bottom half of this. Excuse me. And as you guys are watching, because I know we got some viewers in here, please hit that like button for me. It helps me out immensely. But if you guys want to send a question in the comments section, I will definitely read it out as we're doing this season review. But going over the 12th position, I had Alex Albon, and I thought the Williams looked like they were going to make a really good start with the test with testing. They looked pretty decent. They didn't, they've always had really good straight line speed, but it was never, you know, it was always one of the top teams when it came to straight line speed. But when it came to slow speed corners, and even some of the high speed corners, Williams was nowhere. And but I felt like Alex was going to be one of those guys that was going to be able to fight for the spot. But Yuki Tsunoda, who I had ranked higher at number 10, finishes in the 12th position. Like I said, Visa Cash App Red Bull started off real good, but ended up just really struggling towards the end. The second half of the season, they made, Daniel Ricciardo to be a scapegoat when all came to be. And I think that was really unfair to Daniel Ricciardo, and what they did with him was an absolute joke. And it made Visa Cash App Red Bull look really bad as a team. And I think there were a lot of people that were very upset by that. Death Hunter, do you think Max will win a 5th time, or will somebody else be a new champion? Going into 2025, I think everything is up in the air. We saw the likes of McLaren make a huge step forward. They're now one of the fastest cars, if not the fastest car on the grid. You got the likes of Ferrari, who's starting to show that they're starting to come back and be a force, with the updates that they made towards the end of the season. Red Bull, on the other hand, if anything, has taken a massive step back. And I'd have to be worried that, unless Max gets a credible teammate that is going to help push this team forward, I think it's going to be very difficult for Max to make it a 5-time champion. I mean, if I'm making an early season prediction, Death Hunter, I would say Lando Norris is probably going to be the odds-on favorite to upset Max Verstappen as drivers' champion next season. But again, also you can't count out Max. I mean, if anything we've learned, Max is a guy that will really really push the car to limits that it probably doesn't necessarily deserve to be at. So thank you, Death Hunter, for that wonderful question. I appreciate that. That's awesome. So getting back to the regular season, or to my driver's standings and the predictions I made. So I had Lance Stroll in 13th. Lance Stroll finishes in 13th, and I've said it on plenty of live streams, and also as we're sitting here in the description box, there is a link to Chris, who's the guy that puts together all our live stream reactions. He's put together the whole year's best reactions on live streams. So go check that video out. It's an amazing video. I've had a chance to watch a little bit of it this morning. I haven't had a chance to watch. It's almost a 2-hour video, but you will see me quite a bit in that video, which I'm thankful for. He really kind of put me a little bit more on the map when it comes to Formula One YouTubers. So I really appreciate everything he did there for me. But Lance Stroll, I mean, Aston Martin, I know his dad owns the team, but when is his dad going to realize that Lance Stroll is not going to be the guy that is going to be able to be a competent second driver that is going to get that team where they need to be and get that team, basically up fighting for constructors championships or best of the rest? Like, Lance is just not that guy. He's just not that guy. And I know his dad loves him, but I think Lance has got to be shown some tough love by Lawrence, if we're being totally honest. My number 14 was Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly had an amazing season this year. Got the car, like I said, freak result of, third place in Brazil when all hell broke loose in Brazil. That really helped out him and helped out the Alpine team. But finishing in 14th was actually his teammate, Esteban Ocon, who I think if we're talking about the season in particular, this season was how badly can we treat at least one of our drivers when it comes to, um, you know, what we do with him. Um, you know, Esteban Ocon deserved that one last race. I know that Alpine was wanting to get Jack Doohan in the car as soon as possible, but deserved to be able to say goodbye to his team. Deserved really to be able to do, it really. He deserved that last race. He did. He absolutely deserved that last race as a proper send off. It's just like Daniel Ricciardo in Singapore. Nobody knew, although it was the worst kept secret, that Daniel was going to be, kicked out of the team basically. And, they didn't basically make that weekend special for Daniel. And I think that really soured some fans. And I know there are some Esteban Ocon fans out there that really were quite upset with Alpine in the way they treated him at the end of the season. But, I mean, he did finish 14th, scored 23 points, and was able to get the team up into, sixth place, best, kind of best of the rest. In that fight for sixth, there was a $30 million difference between them and Haas, for finishing sixth. Then you had on my list, I had Nico Hulkenberg in 15th, and Nico finishing in 11th this season. Again, there were so many people that wrote Haas off, and I'm one of them. I'm an American guy. I want Haas to, to really thrive in this sport. And after testing, I didn't think they were going to be anywhere. And like everybody else, I think there were a lot of people that didn't think they were going to be anywhere either. And Haas surprised everybody very early on. You had that great result in Saudi Arabia with Nico Hulkenberg getting that point there. Especially early on in that season, that was a point that we thought could be very valuable. It ended up being a little bit more valuable. We'll go over the team standings here in a little bit, but I think in the Nico with that result in Saudi Arabia was kind of the starting point for Haas and where they were going. And all credit goes to Io Komatsu, being the team principal there now. He has changed the dynamic at Haas, and I'm, for one, truly interested to see what 2025 will bring Haas next season. Moving on down. So let's see. I had 16th. I had Valtteri Bottas, which you're going to see a lot of drivers on this list here because there were so many fill-in drivers this year and drivers that, came in towards the season. But Valtteri was one of those guys that, we all look at as, he's such a veteran. And for a stake F1 team that we knew that car was not that good, we felt like, I think a lot of people in the F1 community felt like Valtteri was going to be able to kind of drag that car up into, getting some freak points every once in a while. But it wasn't to be. And it was really quite sad to see that, Valtteri had probably one of his worst seasons, almost finishing last in the total driver standings, if not for a couple really good results towards the end of the season, got him ahead of Logan Sargent, who got dropped by Williams. But I think a lot of people expected more out of Valtteri. And, finishing 16th, you had Alex in the Williams, which I think a lot of people expected Williams to be much better than they were this season. So hold on just a moment here. I will get to your question in just a moment here, Death Hunter. I do see it. Okay. I just wanted to write that out because I'm going to pin that comment. So just hold on a minute. All right. So Death Hunter question: if Max will get a new teammate, who would it be? I would hope Yuki gets promoted. So I'm going to be totally honest. I feel like Yuki deserves Yuki deserves that second seat at Red Bull. I think for all the trouble that I think a lot of people, and I was one of them, that gave him, which was everybody thought that he was just being a Honda plant. Like they were just using him for, because Honda wanted him basically in Formula One. But I don't think he got that narrative when he first got into Formula One. And he's always, I think, especially this season, he showed that I think he deserves at least a shot at Red Bull. And I'm at least glad that they gave him the test in Abu Dhabi for the young driver test. I think that was really good for not only for him, but I think for the Red Bull team in general to see uh what he can do in that car. And I think from from everything that got talked about and all the radio messages and even the interviews afterwards, he said that car suited him so well. And if it suits him really well, I mean, Liam Lawson, I don't know if he's the guy necessarily to step in. I mean, it's not like he blew the world away at when he came back into Formula One and came into the Visa Cash App Red Bull team. He's not a guy that was like, oh God, like he's, basically second coming. Liam was, very pedestrian at best, I would say. I don't think he definitely needed or he definitely deserved that spot. I think all signs are pointing that he's going to get that seat, which is quite disturbing. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if this would be Yuki's last season with the Red Bull team in general if that happens. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised in general if you see Yuki just say, you know what, F off, I'm gone. You guys don't value me as a driver. Why do I want to stick around with a team that doesn't value me? So I mean, we could definitely see that, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But I think I think he will get a new teammate. Unfortunately, I think it'll be Liam, but I would much rather it be I would much rather it be Yuki. I mean, if we're going to be totally honest, I would much rather it be Yuki. So another great question, Death Hunter. Thank you so much for that. Death Hunter, share the stream out if you can with on all your socials so we can get more people viewing this. And I know more people will view this after the fact. So, but we'll try to get as many people in here as we can. So running down the rest of the order, I had Nico Hulkenberg in 15th, Valtteri 16th, Esteban Ocon in 17th. I thought Alpine was going to be a very crap car. And I think really in the grand scheme of things, Alpine started off slowest car in the field. And yeah, they made some updates that I think got them up there, but I think freak results more than anything else really helped Alpine, really fight for, best of the rest and fight for the tail end of the points. Obviously, they got the 2-3 in Brazil, which I think that basically sealed sixth place in the constructor standings for them. As much as I thought Haas could bring the fight to him, it was going to be too much. But I had Esteban Ocon in 17th. Now, for running down this list, I'm trying not to include drivers that are no longer in Formula One or were in it for a period of time. But we'll run down I'll just kind of run down the rest of this list. I had Logan Sargent in 18th. I thought he was going to make a step forward. Obviously did not. Looked god awful at Williams. He's moving over to the WEC with I can't remember who he signed with in WEC, but he's going to be in sports car racing in 2025. I was hoping he would move over to IndyCar. That would have been really cool had he moved over to IndyCar, but that doesn't look to be the case. I had Kevin Magnussen in 19th. I thought the Haas was going to be god awful. And then I had Guan Yu Zhou in 20th. He scored points. He gave Kick their points for the season. So, I mean, more power to Guan Yu Zhou. I just felt like he was, if you're looking at drivers, you felt like Valtteri was going to be that guy that was going to be able to score points for him. And unfortunately, he just did not. It was bad. So, that was my top 20. Obviously, we had 24 drivers. So let me take my predictions off, but let's run down a little bit last of the driver standings. You had Oliver Bierman. Hold on, let me take a quick sip here. There we go. We had Ollie Bierman in 18th. Made 3 races this season. He raced for Haas. Or no, excuse me. No, he did it. So he raced for Haas twice. He raced for Ferrari once, and really proved, I think, his worth in Formula One, and proved he deserved to be in Formula One for the 2025 season. I think he's a welcome addition to the Haas team, which I am thrilled that they were able to get Ollie into the team as one of their drivers. I'm a little on the fence with Esteban Ocon being his teammate, but I mean, if Esteban is able to if Esteban is able to not clatter into his teammate every single week, Esteban can be a great guy to learn from. Then you had Franco Colapinto, who stepped into the Williams, and I mean, when we're thinking about it, he was the guy that was all the talk all of a sudden that he may get a Red Bull seat, either take over a Visa Cash App Red Bull, or may somehow get the second seat at Red Bull. Then that obviously cooled off as Franco kept crashing the Williams, and basically, really, I think ruined his hopes of, getting a seat in Formula One for the 2025 season with the last few races and his, what unfortunately happened to him there. And then let's see, going down the rest of the list, you have Guan Yu Zhou, again, the only guy to score points for Kick Sauber in a team that was absolutely god awful. You got Liam Lawson, who only got 4 points. He got almost outscored by Guan Yu Zhou. Like that for a guy that everybody thinks is going to be basically the second coming in Formula One, and everybody thinks that he deserves the second seat at Red Bull. He really didn't prove it to me that he deserved that spot. I mean, if we're being totally honest. Excuse me. Then you had Valtteri in 22nd with no points. 3 drivers didn't score any points. You had Logan Sargent, who didn't score anything at Williams. He gets dropped a little bit before midway through the season for Franco Colapinto. Franco took over at Monza, did a great job there. And then Jack Doohan, who took the last race of the season for Alpine, finishes basically dead last as far as positions go. So now let's move over to team standing predictions. So this was my team standing predictions going into the season. So I'm just going to pull that up while we're sitting here. So I thought Red Bull was a team. I thought Sergio Perez was going to do enough. I thought Max was going to dominate this season to the point of that, he was going to score the most amount of points and it was going to allow them to be that number one team. Unfortunately, not with Sergio. Then, Ferrari, McLaren, like I said, McLaren made big steps, the season before in 2023. I thought they were going to be a little bit better than Mercedes, but I thought that was going to be a closer fight there between McLaren and Mercedes. All the talk was that Visa Cash App Red Bull was going to be, was going to be taking over for Aston Martin. They were going to basically prove themselves to be the second, uh, basically best of the rest in that fight, and they just didn't prove it enough. But I thought they were going to be there. I thought they were going to be in fifth place. Then I had Aston Martin in sixth, which was about right. Aston Martin they have a tendency to, when they try to update the car, they take that car in the complete opposite direction of actually, fixing the car. They actually add more problems to it. It's always seemed to be that Aston Martin just does that. Then I had Williams in seventh. I thought Williams was going to be a much better team. I had Alpine in eighth, Haas in ninth, and Stake F1 in 10th. I thought that was going to be the order. And I've said it earlier in this live stream. We all thought, I think everybody in F1 community thought Haas was going to be a god awful team. We thought, when we heard the likes that Andretti was going to come into Formula One, everybody was wanting Haas to sell to Andretti to get out of the sport. And now, that's now not the case. And obviously we're going to get Andretti in very soon in 2026, under the Cadillac banner. But it's the Andretti team, which it's really weird. But, so that was my predictions for the season. But now we take a look at the actual standings and how the standings went. McLaren, I think after Spain, McLaren made themselves to be the team to beat. And I think that, going into 2025, they're going to be the team to beat again. I mean, if we're just early on, before we see any bit of testing, before any of that, I think McLaren has made themselves the team to beat. And, Ferrari's right up there with them. This constructors fight for next season, I think, is going to be much closer than we've ever seen in the past. I think, you could very well, depending on who Red Bull gets as their second driver, if they keep Sergio Perez, if Mercedes and George Russell and Kimi Antonelli can, put their best foot forward and really put that team in a position to be fighting for, a top spot in the constructors. You've got Aston Martin, who always seems to find a way at the beginning of the season to, put that car in a good position. You've got Alpine, who's made really good strides in the offseason to, really update that car in a really good position. But, that engine is shit. And we know that they're getting ready to leave Renault as far as engine supplier and move over to Mercedes in 2026. What does that do for, Alpine, going into 2025? Then you've got Haas with the Ferrari engines. Haas has made really good updates. Ayo Komatsu is really leading that team into a position that they're going to be able to fight for best of the rest. I am sure that Visa Cash App Red Bull is going to make the strides in the offseason to really improve that car. Williams with Carlos Sainz coming there, I think, is going to be a team that's going to be fighting in the midfield. And then you come to Kick Sauber. This is a team, I think, that at least until Audi takes over in... Does Audi take over this year or next year? I think Audi takes a little bit more responsibility this year. Because I can't remember. I can't remember if they're taking over. 2026. So they'll have a little bit more hands-on in 2025, but then 2026 is when they'll fully be a part of the team, and fully be a part of the F1 grid. So looking at the standings, obviously McLaren, Ferrari are going to be, after this season, they're going to be the perennial favorites going into testing of potentially winning the Constructors' Championship again this season. Red Bull finishing in third this season. Red Bull, I think, depending on who they get as their second driver, could work themselves back up into this fight. like I said, I think this is going to be a very interesting off season and very interesting testing in 2025 when we get to testing and see where all the cars are really at when it comes to updates that they're bringing into 2025. And we all know that the there's going to be some development for 2025, but a lot of these teams are going to be focused on 2026 when the new regulations start. So, I mean, if we're looking at uh my predictions, I got Mercedes correct in fourth place. Let's see. Did I get anybody else correct? I got Steak F1 correct too. So I got two correct there. My driver standings were a little bit more, I think, better as far as production or as predictions went. So that was good on that part as well. So yeah, going into 2025, so everybody likes to make their predictions before testing. I hate that. I don't think that's because that's just throwing, crap up against the wall and, seeing what sticks. I like to watch, I like to see testing. I like to see the timings through testing to see, where teams are at, where teams' paces are at, what kind of developments have been made, and then make my decision. So I tend to be that I'm going to be that way again this season when it comes to everything. Um, but like I said, it's just so early to Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc are going to be your odds on, Max Verstappen are going to be your three odds on favorites when it comes to, the drivers championship. And that kind of goes towards Death Hunter's question earlier in the stream about, will Max win a fifth title or not? So does anybody, I know we got a couple viewers in here right now. If anybody's got any questions about the 2024 season or even going into 2025, why don't you, you can either submit it through the regular chat or submit it through Super Chat. That supports me. If you guys also hit the subscribe button, if you guys are new to my channel, there'll be more and more Formula One content coming out very, very soon. So I'll give that a couple minutes because some people may be behind. Oh, and also on all my videos, as I put out videos on the channel, you can actually give thanks on videos. That's another way to kind of support the channel. You can hit the thanks button, and it sends a little bit of money my way and the channel's way, and that money goes back directly into the channel. It helps the channel out. It helps update, the way that I watch races, the way that I, do race reactions. It does all of that. So it really helps out immensely if you guys can help support the channel in that way as well. Let's see. What else could we talk about for the 2024 season? Let's see. Before I'll end the stream, wait to see if some questions come in my way. Death Hunter, thank you so much for the questions, by the way. If you're still watching, I really appreciate that. Let's do. I'm going to take my predictions off the screen there. Oh, while we're, I'm going to take, hold on, I'm going to take one thing off the screen here real quick because I want to give this man some love while we're sitting here. Oh, actually. because I've got to give this guy some love. I need to, because like I said, this guy really um kind of put me on the map. There we go. So this man right here, KR1S, and let me see. I'm gonna get his. I'm gonna do this while we're. Whoops. Let me do this. Hold on. Let me put his channel in the description here real quick. There we go. I had to give him a shout out here, so I'm gonna save that. Hopefully, he actually gets notified that I just that I just tagged him as we're sitting here, as we're just getting ready to finish up the stream here. Okay. So, like I said again, Chris on Formula One does puts together all the best reactions from all the live streams that are out there. And his newest video, Best Fan Reactions of 2024. If you look very, very closely, all the way to the right over here, you can see little old me on his channel. Which like I said, this whole year Chris has done an amazing job, and I've actually had a chance to talk to him a couple times. On Twitter, we kind of talked because I just wanted to offer a thank you for everything he's done for my channel. I mean, we're almost at 800 subscribers on the channel, and Chris is one of those guys that has kind of helped me in getting there. So I really appreciate everything he's done. As I just got 3 concurrent viewers all of a sudden. That's a huge jump. Maybe that was for me tagging Chris. Maybe Chris are you in the chat right now? Actually, that'd be really cool if you were, because I was just talking about you. Like I said, again, his channel, amazing work. He spends so much time putting together these reaction videos of from each race weekend, and it's such amazing work. It really is. And so, like I said, I put a link down in the description to his channel. Please go hit that subscribe button. Keep helping that guy out. He's helped me out immensely. Really does great work. Great editing work, and I can't wait to watch. I've gotten through about the first hour of his best reactions of 2024, so I've got to finish that up this afternoon or this evening. I'm going to check that out as well. Go ahead and take that off the screen. Let me go ahead. Holy shit, he is in the chat! Oh my god! Chris, that's awesome, man. No, thank you for this year, man. Like I said, and I gotta, like I said, I have got to give so much credit to Chris. Dude, that's so awesome that you. That's so awesome that you ended up in the chat. I wasn't sure if you'd get that tag or not, but yeah, I tagged your video for the best reactions of 2024. I've got that in the description. I got your channel in the description. Just so much fun this year being a part of that. And I hope. Me and Chris talked about an idea. I really still want to try to do it if we can, maybe for the first race of the season or maybe a special race next season. I have this idea out there because there's so many F1 streamers out there that I think it'd be a really cool idea with what I brought. I'm not going to say it on air, but thank you so much, Chris. No, oh my God. That is so cool. There we go. I had to comment that. It's just so cool. So I'll kind of leave this open for a little bit longer. Let's if you've got any other Formula One questions, either 2024 or 2025, I will answer those. Actually, what I'm going to try to do is some production on the fly if I can. Hey, you saw my tweet. That's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. And I just tagged Chris. I've also got your channel and the 2024 video that you just put out yesterday. I've got that both in the description. So cool to be included on thumbnails like that. It gets me all excited. So I really appreciate that. So I'm gonna do while we're sitting here. I'm gonna bring the chat up on screen so that if anybody's got any questions, super chats, anything like that they want to, questions that they want to ask, they can ask away. There we go. That's cool. Man, that's so cool. I really appreciate that, Chris. All right. So I'll leave this open for a couple more minutes. Oh, dude. That's so cool, Death Hunter. Thanks to Chris, I found your channel and I started to watch you during every race weekend. Wow, dude. It's so awesome. See, and again, that's why and I'll keep commenting too while we're sitting here. But like it's so cool that to be included with the likes of Pondon and Luke Sam and the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy and Only Vic and like it was just it's such a cool moment to be included in that. It's made my year that Chris did that. So I think Chris may have popped out, but I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate everything he did for me and my channel this year. Oh no, he didn't. Appreciate you. It's so important we put out these videos for a good laugh, especially given recent events. Yes, absolutely. Especially, we all need to have a good laugh right now, especially in the country that we're in. The country that I'm in, we need a good laugh every once in a while. So yeah, I appreciate you, Chris, and I think we both shown our appreciation. And Chris, if you want to send while we're sitting here, before I finish up, if you want to send me a message, I would actually like to set up an interview, to do an interview with you, to kind of talk about your start in YouTube and Formula One. So if you want to send me a message on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and I'd like to get that set up at some point. That'd be really cool because I would love to kind of hear your backstory and let other people kind of hear your backstory, because I think a lot of people, they know you for your reactions, but they don't really see you on screen too much. And unless you're with Pondon watching a race, which I've seen you a couple times, so that's pretty cool. What else do we got here? Let's see. Do we have while we're sitting here, any more Formula One news? That's what I think, and that's one of the ideas that I have for this off season, and I'm gonna do it a lot. I really want to take a shot at it. Is I'm gonna I want to kind of interview some of the Formula One YouTubers that are out there, kind of let people get a feel for what started them in YouTube, and because a lot of people just know them for their Formula One reactions or their Formula One videos, and I think that'd be really cool to see another side of them. So I'd like to do that as well. But I think we're gonna go ahead and end the stream there. Oh, okay. All right, I was I was reading something really quick on my phone. All right, so yeah, we're gonna end the stream there. It's been about an hour. I will try to do more of these as the off season progresses. I'm going to do more just regular videos now. We're coming into that time of the season where we're going to start getting best of videos from F1, from the F1 channels. So we're going to definitely react to those, and we're going to start getting more reaction videos out there and some more just Formula One based videos out there now, just to get you through this off season before we get into 2025, and the season that will be 2025 will be oh so great. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And guys, for the American F1 fan, I'm Eric Ringel, signing off. Thank you guys very much for joining me. We'll see you soon.